Can everybody hear me? Yes. Welcome to Future Economies Start with Youth, a rewired session organized by the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Challenge Fund of Youth Employment. My name is Romana, Osman, and I will be your host for today. During today's session, we will elaborate on the future of work in Africa, specifically focusing on Kenya. And we will go into what is required right now and also in the future for young people to gain the right skills and knowledge in order to build those stable futures for themselves. But before we move on, let's acknowledge the importance of coming together today. Over half of the world population is below the age of 30. And young people have been hit hard by the COVID-19 crisis. It is amazing that we come together today at Rewired, whether you are following this session from online or you're sitting here in person. A very warm welcome to from whatever part of the world you might follow this session from. Today we have speakers from the Netherlands and from Kenya. Please allow me to introduce to you our first speaker, Special Ambassador at Large for Youth Education and Work at the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Tijmen Rooseboom. Next to him, we have Brencil Kaimba, who is a senior consultant, product strategy and development for Serianu, one of the implementing partners of the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment. And next to her, we have our two Kenyan Challenge Fund for Youth Employment youth champs, Fridah, Okomo, and Mohammed Almas. A very warm welcome to all of you. Without further ado, let's go to our first speaker, Ambassador Rooseboom, or Tijmen, if I may call you like that. Could you give us some insight in the macroeconomic trends that are crucial for the youth workforce currently, but also in the future?
Yes. Sorry, this mic is not turned on.
The mic is not turned on? Technical stuff? Yes, now it is.
Now it is.
Yes, great.
Thank you, Romana. Well, I have to be a bit modest, of course, not being an economist by training, so to say, but I think generally what we really see, and that is something that is probably discussed throughout this session, throughout this conference, there is this fourth industrial revolution, or globalization 4.0, or whatever you want to call it, which is really about how our economy is changing. It's about digitalization, it's about outsourcing, it's really changing the way we work. And this future of work, as it's called, it also gives a lot of opportunities to a lot of countries, also to developing countries. That won't go automatically, of course. We actually need to put in a big effort to make sure that this is beneficial for the global population, this fourth industrial revolution, that it works for everyone. But things go fast. And actually, if you look at COVID-19, I think a lot of people saw how fast change can happen. We really saw that in a matter of months, there was a whole push towards globalization. The economy changed, whole sectors changed the way they work. I think it was a stark reminder for all of us that change is already happening, and if it happens, it's fast. So I already said that it gives opportunities. This new economy gives opportunities to a lot of countries and a lot of persons, but it needs to be inclusive. I think if we want to reach the SDGs, if we actually want to make sure that this globalization 4.0 is beneficial to a lot of the people, and we want to accelerate the SDGs, we need to counter the digital divide, which is currently there, and actually give opportunities to young people. And that is something that we'll discuss more, because that's absolutely essential. We also need to specifically focus on the challenges and opportunities of women and young women who often face extra barriers, but who have, of course, there's an enormous potential there as well. So all in all, I would say that this fast happening economic change that we see now does not need to be a zero-sum game. It could actually be beneficial, but then for all of us, but then we need to work on that. We really need to work on making it inclusive.
Yeah, well said. And how does this digital and technological innovation that goes at a very rapid speed, how does it change the skills and work landscape, and how does that affect young people?
Well, if jobs change, if the economy changes, and of course the type of skills that are needed is is changing as well. And we actually, well, there's this statistic, I don't know if it mentioned today as well, but I know that it's a relatively well-known fact, oh, well, it's not a fact, it's a prediction, that 60% of the children who are being born right now will probably have a job that doesn't exist yet. So how do we prepare young people for that type of future? How do we make sure that they have the type of skills that actually works in the future that is still so unknown? This means not just technical skills, digital skills, which is absolutely crucial, but also this 21st century skills, socio-economic skills, transferable skills, all of these different words that exist, but that is all very important. Socio-emotional skills, ways that we actually, that what makes us human, so to say. Yeah. It's probably what will be the important skills next to the technological and digital skills. So we need to work on that, and we invest in human capital. And also entrepreneurial skills is very vital, because very often the young people, there is not a job waiting for them. Very often that they need to create their own jobs. So these type of skills, we need to make sure that it is actually integrated already at a primary level, it's a foundational skill. At secondary level, but also at TVET and university, we need to make sure that this is part of the curriculum. And in the end, what it's all about is we need to adapt, we need to be able to change our skill set, so to say, probably numerous times in our lifetime, and that means lifelong learning. So I think that's also a very crucial change that's happening.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, working for the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, could you explain why it's so important that the public sector focuses specifically on young people?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it should be a no-brainer, as in our world is young. It's been mentioned at the opening as well. It's something that we all know that brings us here together. And with this young world, we need to make sure that also private sector, public sector, education, everyone needs to adapt to that young demographic. We actually have a focus within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, specifically on our development cooperation. We really try to focus on young people as well, bridging the skills and gap, the skills and jobs gap, together with empowering young people at the same time. It's called our Youth at Heart strategy, and we do that with young people because it's absolutely impossible to talk about this subject without actually involving young people. That would be just ridiculous. So I'm happy we're doing that here as well. And of course, and with the private sector as well, because in the end, you need them. They are the ones who are creating the jobs as well. So we need to get into the habit of listening. I think that is a very weird thing to say after you've been talking for 10 minutes. Okay, we will get into the habit of listening. We set up a virtual forum as the Netherlands Youth at Heart, where we brought together young people, international organization, private sector. We set up a youth advisory committee as well, all for us to structurally get into that habit of listening to young people.
Yeah, congratulations on the youth advisory committee. I think a very vital part of the organization to really bring in that voice of young people. So let's now focus a little bit more on the private sector. You already mentioned it shortly. Why is the private sector such an important factor within the Youth at Heart strategy?
Well, generally, this whole approach, if we're talking about bridging the gap between skills and jobs, then where would you be without the private sector? I mean, they're the ones in the end where the jobs are happening. So if we want to make sure that the skills gap is small, we need to make sure that we actually talk with the private sector, both at a global level but also locally. The organization, of course, the fund that we're organizing this together with, a Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, is very much focusing on that as well, making sure that we actually are always on board in a partnership with the local private sector, wherever we work, to actually make sure that these jobs are there and that we're actually matching the skills to the jobs that are there, to the private sector. They're the ones who can be involved in curriculum reform, they're the ones who are involved in job placement. You need the private sector for that. And secondly, of course, because it's the backbone, especially SMEs, are the backbone of economic development. So also that's another reason why you really need them on board.
Yeah, thank you, Tijmen. Also for clarifying the anticipated road ahead. It seems like there's a massive amount of opportunity also to realize the SDGs, but we need to make sure that the way forward is an inclusive, sustainable, and accessible one. Before we move on to our other speakers, let's have a look at how the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment is tackling these issues. If we can start the video.
We are the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and we support promising initiatives from the private sector that create, match, or improve jobs for young people. Our objective is to contribute to decent employment for 200,000 youth by 2025, at least half of them young women. Countries in the Middle East, North Africa, West Africa, and the Horn of Africa are the focus of the CFYE. We will launch several competitive context-specific challenges. In order to make sure our selected projects are true to the local context, we engage directly with companies and youth to better understand their challenges. Through tailored eligibility criteria, including a minimum number of jobs in each of our calls for solution, we ensure that the projects we support are fit for purpose. We invite private enterprises, civil society organizations, and knowledge institutions to participate. When you are selected, we can support you with funding and technical assistance to help your initiative grow. In addition to our investment, participants need to raise their own capital, demonstrate the self-sustainability of their business and its scalability. Join our ambition to help 200,000 youth into decent jobs. Visit our website to learn about previous achievements and check out which calls for solutions we will be opening soon. Go to www.fundforyouthemployment.nl for more information. CFYE is an initiative of the Netherlands government and managed by Palladium, Randstad, and VSO.
Yeah, great that we have this background information, because now we're going to broaden up this conversation with our innovative speaker from the private sector, who is leading the way in making these shifts, and our two Kenyan youth champs who are helping her making these shifts. Great to have you joining us. Maybe, Brencil, if I can ask the first question to you, could you maybe introduce yourself and also your company, Serianu, because you're one of the implementing partners of the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Romana. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today, first time in Dubai. And my name is Brencil Kaimba, and I lead the product strategy and development efforts for East, West, and Southern Africa region for Serianu Limited. I also am the editor-in-chief of Africa Cybersecurity Report, which is a report that highlights what are the key trends and threats around cybersecurity within Africa. For this specific context, I'm here as part of Serianu, which is an implementing partner. Serianu is a cybersecurity company, so it's based out of Nairobi, Kenya, but we do have operations across 10 other African countries. And we've partnered with a consortium of partners, including Kenya Bankers Association, the International University, United States International University, USIU, Africa, and Signified International, which is a placement company based out of Nairobi. So we've partnered as a consortium for CFYE to deliver the Challenge Fund in partnership with CFYE. So yes, that's a bit about myself and the organization I'm representing, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Brencil. So as an implementing partner of the Challenge Fund, how many jobs are you creating for young people, and what kind of jobs are these?
Okay. So we do have an ambitious goal of creating up to 2,000 jobs for the next 3 years. And the background behind this is that, like I mentioned, I'm the editor-in-chief of Africa Cybersecurity Report. And in 2017, we did a survey across Kenya and a number of other African countries where we're asking ourselves, what is the skills gap in Africa? And what are the specific skills that we need? And as part of that, specifically for Kenya, what we found out was that we have up to about 1,700 skilled professionals, cybersecurity skilled professionals, against a demand of about 100,000. So there lies in the problem. And out of this, only about 10% are female. So one of the one of the questions we asked employers was, what are the main areas or gaps that you're looking to fill in terms of roles in your organization? So with this in mind, this is now how we came up with the 2,000 number, but also this is where the jobs that we are creating for the youth come from. So specific gaps come in areas of security operations, areas of threat monitoring and threat intelligence, even research around cybersecurity, specifically to what is happening within Africa and what's happening within the local context. So those are some of the jobs that we aim to create for the youth that will be both futuristic, but also tackle the unique challenges that we see, specifically SMEs facing in Africa and Kenya specifically.
Yeah, very interesting. And indeed, the growth potential is large. You mentioned that only 10% of the skilled security professionals in Kenya is female. We just saw in our video that the Challenge Fund of Youth Employment has a gender lens, and gender is quite important. So how do you aim to attract young women into this field?
Yes. Yes, like you've mentioned, what we noted is the attrition rate for women is a bit higher. And like I mentioned earlier, we are working with a partner, which is an academic partner, USIU University. And what we did is they did a survey looking at all the first years up to the fourth year students who came in and how many were female versus how many actually graduated. So the approximate attrition rate is about 12 to 20%. So what we are doing is that, one, we acknowledge that there'll be some form of attrition when we're implementing this program. However, even looking at my own experience, I joined cybersecurity training because my professor was a female professor from USIU. So again, those are some of the things that we want to implement. So we are actively recruiting role models as trainers for the program, just to ensure that the ladies have a picture of what they can aspire to. So that is one of the things that we are actively doing. We are also doing what we call mapping of roles. If you're in tech or if you're in security, you realize that there are very distinct roles within cybersecurity, and some are more technical, others are more into GRC. So what we are doing is that we are mapping particularly the female candidates that we have to roles that they will not only be good at, but excel at. And also this will help reduce the attrition rates. But I think one of the benefits of having a partner as CFYE is that we are able to leverage on their technical assistance, especially on gender issues. But also now, even with what the ambassador is working on, looking at this program from a youth lens. So we are able to actually merge both gender issues and also looking at this program from a youth perspective to ensure that it is actually something that addresses the needs of both women and youth.
Yeah, super, very inspiring, and I think very much needed. We have our two youth gems also here joining us today. I would love to ask maybe Fridah first, if you could introduce yourself, your role within the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and also if you could elaborate about some of your personal aspirations.
Thank you so much, Romana. My name is Fridah Okomo, a young Kenyan passionate about youth-led activities and advocacy. I am a youth champion with the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and currently I'm working to co-design a youth-centered role that is aimed to enhance job opportunities for youth. And my wider role in this fund, Challenge Fund, is to really amplify the youth voices and also to enhance meaningful engagement. I am really excited and honored to be part of this session and to reimagine the future of work with you and to illuminate that path. And these are times that really calls for bold measures. And this generation, I feel that we really need to spearhead this. And in regards to what I really aspire, or the sector really aspire to work in, I really aspire to work in a development organization or as a communication consultant. And just my aspiration for youth is I really aspire the youth to be viewed and regarded as active and equal stakeholders and participants in not only providing solutions, but also being part of the solutions. Thank you.
Yeah, very well said, also being part of the solutions. Maybe Mohamed, you're very far from me, but if you could please introduce yourself, your role in the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and also some of your inspiration, if you could share that with us.
Oh, great. Bismillah. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. My name is Mohammed Almas. I'm from Kenya. And like Fridah, I'm a global youth champion with the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment. You see, there can be nothing for youth without youth. So I'm here as an evidence that in the Challenge Fund, youth is at the heart of development. My main aim here is to amplify the youth voice in the whole programming process, from the design to the implementation to monitoring. And I have key interests in policy development and advocacy, and that informs my aspirations. I would love to work as a public officer in my country on policy, and this is just to make sure that I directly ensure that the youth are placed at the heart of development policies. Currently in our country, you find that the policies formulated for youth empowerment, but they weren't really based. They really based them on assumptions of what the youth want. They didn't really consult the youth. So I have to make sure that I'm the center of it, together with other youth, so that policies are formulated from the real aspirations of youth, and of course they have to be reviewed from time to time based on dynamics. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Mohamed. And great to also have you here. Maybe building on your personal aspirations, could you maybe elaborate on shared aspirations by Kenyan youth? And also, is there maybe a specific sector where young Kenyans aspire to work in more than in other sectors?
Well, on the question of the other questions that youth aspire more, well, there's so many sectors that Kenyan youth are interested in working. And I would say that there are those that are readily available because they don't really require formal qualifications. And mostly youth work in this sector as casual laborers. And I would say in the transport sector, we have the motorcycle industry. That's one of the most used modes of transportation in our country. So you find most of the youth are in that sector. It doesn't really require a degree or something. In the construction sector, where you find that you need to carry around construction materials, do the casual work, needs a lot of strength. In the agriculture, youth working manually, digging manually and all that. In the blue economy sector, there's also the casual labor part in the tourism sector. And this other sector that, isn't really accessible to most of the youth, the technology sector, because this really comes with skills. I'll give an example. During this COVID-19 pandemic, myself, I had to learn some new skills. We have the University of YouTube, thankfully. Those need to diversify income because COVID-19 has really affected the economy and all that. So I was able to learn graphics designing online, and I would say I was able to do that because I had basic digital skills, which most of the youth do not have. I also had my computer. Most of the youth also don't have that one. And also, I would say, it needs the basic digital skills, some good attitude, some discipline for you to do that. So generally, youth in Kenya are looking forward to either be empowered, be enabled to start their own social enterprises, or rather be employed, but in decent workplaces where there's sustainable income, where they have room for growth, for personal development, for career development, and also where the social protection is guaranteed.
Thank you, Mohamed. And I hear you say that it's so important to have decent work and income opportunities for young Kenyans. I couldn't agree more, of course. Maybe Fridah, if I can ask the same question to you, what are the aspirations of other Kenyan youth, and is there maybe a sector that really jumps out with regards to workplace?
So just to add to what Mohamed has said, is that, and then also what Tijmen has said, is the world is really changing at a pace that we can't really understand, and it's very fast. And as a youthful generation, we bear the brunt, and it leads us to a question: how many of us youth will be able to pay that price? So according to research, 60% of youth in sub-Saharan Africa really believe that technology is creating jobs. So this also tailors the aspiration towards jobs that are in technology, and also green economy, which is also a driver for the future. So in regards to now the decent job, giving a personal interaction with one of the youth I've been interacting with, because I've had a privilege of interacting with various youth, is that she is working in the informal sector in the research skills, which is, she does mostly research consultant. She does mostly the data analysis from January. So she gets this job maybe in 2 weeks and then gets paid and then has to wait for another maybe 2 weeks. So I got to ask her if she was given an opportunity, because yes, the job gives a sustainable income. So if she's, she can choose between that informal sector job or a formal one, then where could she go? And the answer was really evident. What the youth really want is she prefers decent job. And for this, she means stable income, benefits like social protection. They have personal and professional development, and their well-being are taken into consideration. So again, Kenyan youths really don't want just jobs. They want decent job opportunities with those benefits that I have highlighted. And when these realistic aspirations of youth are really put into consideration and merged with the urgency of belief that change can really occur, and they are provided with these sustainable pathways and the tools to curb these menace of maybe the future of work, or to be able to keep at par with the future of work, then we are really looking forward to a luminous future of work. And again, the best way to predict this future is to really create it here.
Lovely, lovely said. So now I would love to have a look at the future of work. As Tijmen also elaborated during the beginning of this session, the world is changing at a very rapid speed. So Brencil, you explained how Serianu is employing young people. Could you maybe, and how do you anticipate your company to change over the next 10 years? And also, what does that mean for the jobs that you're creating today for young people?
Okay, thank you once more. It's interesting because we've turned 10 this year. So, and when I look back at some of the strategies that we had implemented, at the core of it, we believe in research, we believe in development of solutions, and we believe in awareness, like creating an ecosystem of participants who are aware of what's happening within the ecosystem itself. So, looking at the next 10 years, we are still looking at the same principles of research, development, and awareness. And when I talk about research, our research shows that the market is changing. We are having a lot of banking institutions or central banks adopting digital currencies, even in Africa. We are having a lot of central banks in Nigeria, in Kenya, adopting what we now call risk quantification metrics. So we've moved from just regular cyber reporting to risk quantification reporting. We are looking at a number of countries, specifically, again, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, quite a number of them, who are now adopting data protection, as, of course, following from GDPR. So when we look at this and when we're looking at the trends, we realize that we need to also look at, okay, what are we training our youths right now? So we need to embed skills around data protection, which we are doing as we speak, because we need data commissioners, and they do not exist. So it's the youth who are going to take up such roles. So that is what we are looking at. So impacting youths with futuristic skills, even though we are still impacting them with skills that are needed now, we've already, through the research, we've impacted them with that. But just to maybe point out, one of our underlying, what we're really proud of is we want to help design or create youths that can be able to design solutions that address local challenges. So coming up with products, softwares that are locally engineered. So that would be the foundation of it as we build on the skills of the youths.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So let's reflect this projection of the future back to our youth champs. Fridah, if I may ask this question first to you, what does the future of work look like for you as a Kenyan young person, and what does that mean for your set of skills?
So I really do believe that we are talking about the future of work, but we are living in it. It's already upon us, and it's really here, and it's really exposing us, the young minds, to really top selling skills and market trends. And just to reiterate about the education sector, the Kenya education sector, is that it has really been focusing training of tomorrow workforce to operate in yesterday's workplace. So that is also a really big problem in that. So for me, I really see a future of work where new skills will come up, and then some jobs will be replaced by other jobs. And this future calls us to really embrace some of these skills, because it will really mark a transition to a new way of life. So with technology being at the center of this future of work, new opportunities will come up, and these opportunities we really need also to be prepared to get into some of the job opportunities created by these technologies, because jobs will be different and better at the same time. So again, the ever-changing workforce and the shifting workforce will really require decent opportunities and sustainable job employment. And as a Kenyan youth, I really feel like to be at par with the ever-changing workforce, I really need to possess some of these skills. And to broadly highlight them, I really need skills in entrepreneurship. That is the future entrepreneurship work. I really need employability skills, and another skill that is really important, because humanity is here to stay, is I really need person skills. And just to mention some of these skills is we really need to be really innovative, creative, and be able to solve problems. So those are really important skills that as a Kenyan person, I really need. And for again youth to really benefit from the future of work and to really manage to keep at par again with the future of work, they really need to be prepared in terms of their skills attainment, in terms of their level of ambition, and also level of aspiration. So for them to really embrace this future of work we are talking about, they really need also to engage in continuous learning, in upskilling and also reskilling. So opportunities should be availed to these youth, and they should be encouraged, because continuous learning is very important to keep up with the future of work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Very well said. And let me please underline something that you said that I find very strongly. We have to, or we are training tomorrow's youth workforce with yesterday's skills and knowledge. And I think that really underlines the importance of why we are coming together here today. Maybe, Mohammed, if I can ask you the same question, how are you, or how is the future of work looking for you, and how are you preparing your skills to that?
Yeah, great question. So like my colleague has said, we talk about the future, but globalization 4.0 is here. Of course, it has been hastened by the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, you can see the production team over there. We have the audience joining online. It's happening, right? So as a point of emphasis, I would say digital skills are very key, for me, of many youth, let's say all youth, to thrive in this globalization 4.0. And another important thing that I would say that is also important, we have so many uncertainties, the pandemic, natural disasters that we never call for. And, these uncertainties really do not mean that our performance goals, our performance objectives should change. It really affects how we do perform. So, in order to keep our economies stable, and I would say youth, the engines of economies, we really need resilience for that. We really need to bounce back from these challenges to make sure that things still go on smoothly. Our economy is stable. We still, able to fight poverty and all that. So emotional intelligence is important. Yeah, we are working, and everyone is very ambitious in this fast-paced world economy right now, working under a lot of pressure, and our generation is quite easily gets frustrated, so easily frustrated. So it really needs resilience, for better performance. Yeah, so digital skills, resilience, emotional intelligence, I'd go for that.
Yeah, well said, Mohammed.
Yeah.
So knowing that the industry is changing very fast, and also having heard the stories of our youth champs, Brencil, can you elaborate how you are preparing the world's young people for the changing world of work?
Okay. Thank you for the question. I'll focus specifically on the tech space because that's where I have statistics on. When you look at what we're trying to do, and I'll just borrow from what Fridah has said, is that you'd find that in tech, sometimes you can find 10 people who have the same technical skills, but what is missing is that engagement, and when you look at how they're presenting themselves, that's where you get the difference. So what one of the 4 pillars that we have, the first one is we are focusing on soft skills. So just working with the youth to showcase, how do you communicate? How do you stand out in an organization? What do you share on your social media to help your profile? Because you realize the people who move up faster have a way of communicating such that they are able to attract the attention of the boss or opportunities, basically. So that is the first thing we are doing. The second thing we are doing is mentorship. So we realize that even for me, I do think I am a success because of the mentorship that I've had over the last 7 years that I've been working. So again, we are matching different youths with different industry players, and just for them to understand, okay, these are the parts, this is what has worked, this is what has not worked, this is how the industry looks. Yes, so just equipping them and allowing them to make those connections. That is the second thing that we are doing as part of the program. The third thing that we are doing is what we call market engagement. So like I mentioned, we interact with a lot of employers. So in as much as we've partnered with the Kenya Bankers Association, we've partnered with quite a number of, a wider pool of employers, whereby we seek to continuously understand, okay, what are your needs? What is changing? What profile of candidates are you looking for? So with this information, we are able to actually inform the youths of some of the things that they need to build either before seeking employment or work on so that it's a smoother transition. And finally, and I think this is one of the biggest ones because it merges both public sector and private sector, is curriculum redesign. Because if you send someone to university or TVET for 4 years and then they come out and they're told you're still not ready, it's almost like a waste. So what we are doing is that we are working with both sectors to just look at, okay, this is what the supply side wants, this is what the demand side wants. So how do we bridge that gap and now redesign the curriculum to ensure that at least it meets the both parties' needs.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned redesigning the curriculum. How are you working within the consortium together with academia?
Okay. Yes. So part of the consortium is the USIU University, and they are a very prominent university in Kenya. So one of the things that we are doing is that we are not curriculum design. So we might know what's needed, but they work on curriculums. Kenya Bankers Association might know what the industry needs. So within this consortium, we are able to leverage on the professors that we have, and we're able to now look at the feedback that we get from industry and try and work out with our experts, this is how we actually deliver when it comes to this problem. And then work with academia, USIU, to redesign and shape the different programs that would fit the different profiles of students. Because we're not just looking for techies, we are looking for youths, and sometimes it cuts across, it doesn't have to be tech specific. So that is how we come together to work. But also I think the other component is now the placement. Because you can train all you want, but youth will still sit there. Yeah. So our placement consortium now works to continuously ensure that the youth who are trained actually get a job, because that is what they want at the end of the day.
Yeah, so, of course. Well, great to hear from you, and it's great to hear how proactively you are tackling these issues. If I can bring it back to Tijmen, as an ambassador of youth education and work at the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, could you share some reflections on how the Challenge Fund of Youth Employment is connecting the private sector with development, and also all while maintaining youth at heart?
Yes, well, thank you, Romana, and thank you for all of your points made. And it was very nice to just sit here and listen. But I hope it was nice for the people in the audience and the people online as well. Yeah, of course. I mean, we're here with this Challenge Fund is very much focused on also creating decent employment, and we're here at an education summit. So I think that it's very obvious that we try to bring, also with this fund, but in other ways as well, really try to bring these worlds together. I mean, for young people, the reality is that they need to go from learning to earning, so to say, and that sometimes there are barriers in between that exist at bureaucratic level, or at company level, or at organizations. This is a knowledge institute, or this is a private sector. That is, of course, something that is really unhelpful for young people. We really need to adapt our way of working to the reality that we just heard as well from our youth champions, who already laid out some of the sectors that are important, and some of the skills that are needed. So there you have actually this bringing the voice of young people in at the same time. So yes, these things are always connected. They're two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, this nexus between skills and jobs means working together with the private sector. On the other hand, you always need to work together with young people because they have the experience. They actually know what they need. And I think it was quite clear from Fridah and Mohamed as well that they know what they need. They know what type of skills. They know what industries are potentially interesting. And it's up to us to adapt our work to their reality. And that is in essence what we try to do with Youth at Heart. Like more and more we try to keep the specific challenges and opportunities of young people at the heart of what we do and adapt our work to their reality.
Yeah, thank you. I can only agree with all that has been said today. And I would love to give a big thank you to all of our speakers, Tijmen, Brencil, Fridah, and of course, Mohamed. Not ever has the world seen a larger cohort of young people. Young people have their whole lives in front of them, and they have the right to gain the right skills and knowledge in order to build those stable futures for themselves, their communities, and their countries. And of course, the world is changing at a fast pace, and the way we live and work because of digital and technological innovation. This really means that young people need to acquire a wide array of skills from a young age onwards. And in order to do that, we need to cooperate. So public sector, private sector, civil society, knowledge institutions, and of course, young people. We have to make sure that the way forward is an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable one. And therefore, of course, cooperation is key. So let's shape the future together. And let's also keep this conversation going, of course, at Rewired, but also beyond. Our colleagues from the Challenge Fund of Youth Employment, our speakers, but also in front of the hall, and me and myself, Tijmen and myself, of course, are walking around from the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are walking around at Rewired for the coming 2 days. So if you just want to ask a question, or if you indeed want to keep the conversation going, please feel free to reach out to us. For now, I would love to thank you all, of course, for attending this session, and I would love to wish you a very fruitful Rewired Summit. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.